Thanks for joining me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking me to be part of this. It's cool. We're neighbors. I didn't know that.
Yes, that's right. Asheville, North Carolina. Geez, I'm on a streak. I've interviewed two other episodes from Raleigh and Southern Pines, respectively. So I
Yeah,
guess I'm keeping up the streak.
keep it local.
Yeah. How is Asheville doing, man? I drove through a couple months ago on my way to Nashville and Memphis, and a beautiful drive. I love that area of North Carolina,
Yeah.
and I did notice a lot of construction, a lot of disheveled sections still. How is it for you and the guitar industry in general? Yeah, is the rebuild on the move or long slow or?
Well, I think that the whole I haven't researched this or seen data on this, but it seems like the economy has slowed a little bit around here. I know that
Uh-huh.
there's a fair amount of businesses that weren't able to bounce back from what happened. I'm still blessed with enough work into the foreseeable future where, I'm not necessarily worried like as far as my little microcosm right here. But,
Sure.
the city has a lot of stuff is still messed up. We've got water, we've had water for a while, which is awesome. They're slowly starting to rebuild. Roads are starting to come back in different areas. When you drive downtown Asheville, there's still, when you drive this whole part of the state, when you
Uh-huh.
go up to like around Newport and areas and just this whole part of the state, you can just look at the river and see what had happened, how high it had been. There's just rocks everywhere, where there had been soil and trees. It's just a million little spots where people have just had to completely rebuild their lives. It's just
Yeah.
an ungodly amount of work that needs to be done. There's still just a lot of there's buildings that are still just piles of rubble. There's just a lot of
Yeah.
areas that it's really obvious what happened still.
Yeah.
Um,
And then that art district by the river, they just got hammered. Just,
yeah,
I mean, just they're practically on the banks of that river, and
yeah,
just a hot zone for sure. And I apologize. I don't mean to start off the episode on a down note, but I think the
yeah,
stories of rebuilding and the community and you're not you've guitar runs deep in that area of North Carolina. So I know you're not the only one in the luthier community. Do you see a maybe a tighter bond forming after Helene in the luthier community? Getting together and helping each other out, or sharing information or resources, or passing work on to other guys if you don't have enough. Do
yeah.
you notice any of that going on?
Not necessarily. So I feel like the luthier community has been like progressively edging towards that anyway, where in my mind it seems like everybody gets closer from every shop and it seems like everybody's more willing to share information. And
That's true.
I'm not sure that's necessarily Helene related in this case. Um,
Okay.
I think that the community got a lot closer, like as far as, the neighbors bringing neighbors water, getting this from this neighbor,
Yeah.
giving this to this neighbor, and then just
Yeah.
supporting each other in general. But I feel like the Luther community is definitely going that way anyway. So, and
Sure.
we,
Absolutely. And places like the Luth Group and YouTube and
yeah,
Instagram. I mean, you're right. It's becoming more tightly knit than ever, for
yeah,
sure.
and then just
Yeah.
Instagram hitting people up and getting hit up, and
Yeah.
it's a cool thing to be part of. Where
Absolutely, man.
we can
The
honestly
new
wish the
social
best
media.
for each other. Yeah.
How about access to resources? Was there a bit of a drought there for a little bit? Or are you set on tuners and bridges and all the supplies that you need to build, or did you see a bit of a gap there?
I feel like I was largely unaffected by
Okay.
supplies. I moved the shop out into the driveway, so that was one thing. I kind of parked my truck in a way that you can't see what I was doing from the road because I like to be pretty
Okay.
discreet around here. It's a nice neighborhood, but still people walk up and down the roads. I had my bench
Sure.
moved out to the driveway, so I guess in that way, power was scarce, water was
Yeah.
scarce.
Yeah.
But besides that, it's supplies. I feel like they've still been difficult since COVID. Like as
Mm.
far as
Well, that's a
things
good point.
shipping out quickly. There's certain major
Right.
retailers that we all shop from that has still, it
Right.
seems like COVID hit, they changed things and things have never gotten back. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I'm up the hill a little ways. We had a tree fall on our house, so it affected us directly, and we ended up we're
Wow.
good. But downhill from us is where just tons of stuff happened.
And yes, the state of North Carolina and the nation in general came out in force. It was awesome to see that.
Yeah,
Very, very appreciated on many levels. Thankfully, Charlotte wasn't impacted as heavily as you guys. It skirted right past us, but we were ready for it. And it's interesting because I just moved from Georgia a few years ago, and we have to reconfigure the way we look at hurricanes because they do come more inland than most people
yeah,
realize. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So we need to be a little on our toes every season for
yeah.
sure.
That's true. Yeah,
But
absolutely.
enough about natural disasters.
Let's
Justin,
talk about
you
fires
run.
too.
So sorry.
So we still have
What?
fires to talk about.
Oh, good grief. Yeah, and I'm sure, after last year, the ones that I was seeing on the news in your area, I'm sure your firefighting forces are
Yeah,
definitely on their toes. Justin Eisenman, you run Eisenman Guitars,
yeah.
and you are also not only a builder, and your craftsmanship is amazing. The guitars that you have on your website are beautiful.
Thank you.
The woods that you choose are just incredible, and you're also a repair specialist. So you're kind of dipping your toes in both sides. Do you get how what's the majority? What's the meat and potatoes? Is repair the meat and potatoes, and building is on an as needed basis when orders come in? Is that how it's working?
Yeah, I would say it's accurate to say it's meat and potatoes. So
Okay.
the biggest part of my business right now is the repairs and the restorations, and
Okay.
it's very interesting. I love it. I feel like I'm really good at it, and there's tons of need for it around here. So which is
No
good.
doubt.
So there's yeah, so I really love that part. That's what most of my business is. And then there's also
Cool.
the building part, which is a passion and it's also a business too. But I'm very selective about what guitar projects I take on there because it doesn't put food on the family table as quickly, and
Mhm.
it takes so much time. And I really dislike sanding a lot. And if I'm going to be sanding on something, I really want to like it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so there's a big industry of people that will copy like a Martin to the T, and that's awesome. And they do a really good job, and people want that. But when I get orders in for that, like they want the pedal headstock, they want forward shifted, rear shifted, whatever, and they want it to look like a Martin, it's less interesting to me, even though my
Mhm.
designs, start with Martin. They're dreadnoughts and their OM styles, they start there. But yeah, so all that to say, it's if I wanted to expand like the amount of work I'm interested in taking on, maybe that'd be a bigger part of the business. But I also like things to change up a lot, so it's nice to have this
Mhm.
thing to work on today and that thing to work on tomorrow. And
Right.
I worked for a company for a little while that I would be sanding 12 cherry banjo necks in a day, and that did not make me happy at all. I pretty quickly found out. So when I do build, it's it's custom one-offs. I work directly with the customer, and they'll either really get into what kind of woods, what kind of appointments, this and that, and just be every single little detail, or sometimes they'll just cut me loose and let me run with it. But every guitar has been like built specifically to this person, and it's
Excellent.
yeah, the process is the process varies, but it's every single thing that comes out of here that's built is very different. Like,
And I'll bet that's the excitement of it too. It keeps it fresh,
yeah,
new. Yeah.
yeah,
Instead of just churning them out. But and
for
it's
sure.
interesting you mentioned the banjo company. I noticed on your bio that you originate from Minnesota. Was that where the banjo company was?
No, I went to school in Minnesota, but I grew up in Door County, Wisconsin, which is
Oh.
between Green Bay and Lake Michigan.
Oh, okay.
Michigan people always like to throw their hand up and say that they're the thumb or they're the fingers. But I think Wisconsin's a great mitten also, and I grew up right in the thumb joint. pretty much right
Oh,
there.
gotcha. Okay.
But no, the banjo company Cedar Mountain Banjos, and
Oh,
it was just south of here in Mills River. So yeah, it's a cool company, and I was working on their Brainjos, and it was kind of it was an entry
Brain
point
Joe? Did you say
Brainjo
Brain Joe? What
Brain
is a Brain
Joe. Well, it's an entry level banjo. It's high quality built entry level banjo, and um, it was there was somebody who had a really good way of teaching banjo, like from a I think from a neurological perspective, where he had just kind of like some brain hacks on how to get the banjo underneath your fingers quicker. And
Wow.
part of his package was that he would supply these brain joes. So this company I worked for would make these brain joes for the banjo dude, and then he'd sell them the banjo, and people could have a high quality boutique banjo. I don't know how much they
Nice.
went for, but for just a little bit of money, and that was cool. They were all cherry. I think they sourced some of their rims from other local banjo places too. I want to say that he got his rims from Pisgah Banjo Company, so which is another awesome company
Oh,
out here, also your
yeah.
neighbor. So
Yeah, yeah. How is the speaking of sourcing and sourcing woods, it's got to be fairly easy in the Asheville area, right? There's probably plenty of lumber places to get beautiful woods from. Is that true?
I I guess, there's kind of
Is
like
that where you get
anywhere.
your or do you get your woods from North Carolina timber or just whatever the customer orders, you might have to get it from California or depending on the build.
Yeah, well, here and there, I guess is the answer. So
Hmm.
I got into a thing a while ago where I found on Facebook Market, no, it was Craigslist at that time. Somebody said that they had some mahogany, and I went to their place and they had big beams of mahogany, and then they had a whole
Nice.
bunch of logs standing over in the corner, and those ended up being cocobolo logs. And I didn't really know how to resaw at that point, and I didn't have a saw for it, so I passed on them. And then I was sitting there kicking myself, and then they went through different sources, and I ended up finding one of those logs again for, let's see,
Wow.
it was 7 times as much money. So I,
Wow.
so I bought that, and then I had to buy the resaw bandsaw, and that's been awesome because now the world is open to me because I can resaw anything. So
Oh,
I have a
nice.
big old log of cocobolo, and I've been making guitars off of that for years.
Wow.
Yeah, and then a Facebook find that a friend in Wisconsin included me into was there was a barn that had just a whole bunch of propellers, Sitka spruce that they used for airplane propellers back in the day, and
Wow.
got to some of that.
Wow.
There's John Arnold, who's over near Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. He works with the Hampton Brothers, and at one point I think Hampton Brothers still will climb up the mountain, grab these trees, and then haul them back down. But that's how you
Wow.
can get some really good red spruce. And I just got a
No
magnet
doubt.
shot from him just last week.
Wow.
And then there's Cormark International, which is a really fun place. It's just a huge warehouse, and then I more recently found out that that's only one of their warehouses. I was looking for a big piece of oven call, and then they drove me down the road 5 minutes, and there's another warehouse, and I got to climb over this big stack of oven call and find the perfect quarter sawn piece
Wow.
with figures. So
Wow.
yeah, so here and
Well,
there.
that and it makes me and here's where we tie in the natural disaster with sourcing wood. Is there an influx of wood from down timber from Helene that you're noticing? Is that something that the industry is kind of benefiting from in any way, do you think?
I don't know, and it
Okay.
has been on my radar.
I would suspect that they would be for
Yeah,
sure. I mean,
I
some of
would have
those
figured
great
there'd be some
timbers
red
don't.
spruce that was
Yeah.
felled, but I've got a couple of
Nice. Very.
buddies out there with chainsaws doing some work, and I'm like, hey, if you ever see a red spruce laying down, let me know. I'll come there and I'll get it out of your way right away. Never have to, just say the word, and
I'll
just no
find.
problem. Yeah, no scheduling. I'll
I'll
just
find.
be there. But yeah,
Very cool. And I have to say, I said that you're a repair specialist and a builder, but you're also a musician. You perform according to your website, you're performing with your wife in a band. Is that she plays
yeah,
stand-up bass? Is that still a vital part of your life?
yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a big part. So I was a touring bluegrass musician through most of my 20s and 30s, and
Awesome.
there's a friend that I had who mentioned to me that there was this person on Craigslist that was looking for a guitar player for an internationally touring bluegrass band. So I I looked it up, and then it ended up being my wife, and I learned all of her songs, and then auditioned, and I got the
Wow.
job. And at that point, I'd been doing bluegrass gun for hire around the area. So I was doing very easily 5 shows a week,
Wow.
on mandolin and guitar and bass, and just whoever needed
Wow.
something, and that was really fun. And then when I got together with Aubrey, we just got so busy playing and touring, and it was awesome. And we've had different people playing in the band and swapping people out, doing as a duo a lot of the times. And we traveled England, Ireland, made a big loop around the United States in the 1984 Toyota Huntsman that gave me troubles the whole way.
When you were touring in Ireland and the UK, it's kind of a well-known fact that bluegrass, the roots are from Gaelic and Celtic music, in a really deep sense. Did you find that they had a different kind of a respect for what you guys were doing there? Was it,
Oh, dude. Yeah. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. Just being over there's a different relationship to music in the first place.
mhm,
Um, and they really love, traditional American music, and like you said, it has its roots over there. So maybe that's why it resonates so well with them. But we played this one gig where there was another band that opened up for us that was from England, and they were doing traditional American music, bluegrass, which is kind of cool to
wow,
be part of. Um,
wow,
nice guys. But the one thing I noticed is that, you play gigs here, and I'll just take this away from myself for a minute, but like any band that you see here, that there's tons of really talented musicians. They're just like mind-blowing talent, right? Really good music. And there's people talking and not listening, and it's loud. And then you have the monitors cranked up, and then it's just the whole thing is just all about making racket that's louder than their racket. Um, but when you play over there, it's like you go to an Irish pub, and people are shushing each
right?
other so they can sit there and listen to you, and
Oh, that's awesome.
it's so cool.
The
And then the
ultimate
music is
respect.
better. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you want to hear much better music, like somebody singing the same song to a crowded brewery in North Carolina. That song's going to sound so much better with a whole bunch of people gathered around listening at a bar in Ireland, or a house
Yeah.
concert here too. So
Wow.
I guess
That's amazing respect. Amazing
yeah,
respect.
yeah, it's
It
cool.
reminds me of it reminds me of a jazz club that I went to in Atlanta, and they served dinner in quotes, and they had plasticware and paper plates, so you weren't making a bunch of tinkling noises while you were
Oh,
eating while they were performing. And at first I guffawed at that, but you know what? That makes a lot of sense, and it really did help.
yeah,
Because there were people still jawing and talking. I'm like, can you guys just please focus on what's going on the stage? I mean, but
yeah,
the establishment tried. They tried.
yeah, man. If you set out with that intention, bring some awareness to people just to know that there's another way of doing it. You can
Yeah.
listen, and then as a guitar player, probably everybody who plays guitar knows, not just in the bluegrass community, but if you're playing trying to be louder than somebody else, it's like you're
Mhm.
playing as half as good, and it's half as fun.
That's right. So, Justin, you and I have to mention, we delayed this recording a week because you went on a very special road trip.
Yeah.
Uh, was that up in Virginia? And tell me about that road trip and who you met.
So there's both of these folks are people I've met before, but so my kids were up in Wisconsin with my mom for like a summer outing, like summer camp kind of thing with grandma.
Okay.
So I had extra time in the shop where I could take off, and I went and visited with Wayne Henderson up in Rugby, Virginia, and I also visited with John Arnold over in, I think it's Dandridge or around Pigeon Forge in Tennessee. But
Wow.
so I'm embarking on this mission here that I hope isn't a fool's errand. But there's so many times when a Martin will come into the shop, or a vintage Martin will come into the shop, and the bridges look the same when you look across the room for the most part, but there's a large percentage of them that have had bridges remade, and sometimes you have to make a bridge that's a little bit wider. Some people make bridges that are a little bit wider to cover up certain things, or
Cover
to
up
correct,
that finish. Yeah.
yeah, for correct scale length, or just because
Right.
back when these guitars weren't so valuable, somebody was just fixing it to get somebody back out on the road, so they make a clunky looking bridge.
Yeah.
And there's subtleties with that design. You know, there's just in woodworking in general, there's you pay attention to the lines because the lines are way more beautiful than curves, right? And the lines tell the story of how those bridges are made. And, you know, I just, for years, I've been, whenever something comes into the shop, I try to compile data on it. I get out contour gauges and I just measure everything so that way next time a 48 triple O 18 comes into the shop, I know exactly how that bridge should look, and I don't have to do it from memory or do it like from pictures or, you know, just kind of just take my best whack at it. So it's with there's a couple times where I ran across some intonation issues on guitars that should not have intonation issues. Like, you know, Martins are famous for having intonation issues with bridge placement in the 70s, but I've also found it in the 40s and 50s that's a lot less, but there's the intonation is just not quite right. And then you have to try to maybe split the difference or try to figure out, am I going to do what's period correct or am I going to do what's going to make this thing sound the best?
Good point.
And is if
Right.
it's 4 to 16th of an inch, that's a lot. People are going to see that, you know, I'm going to see it, you're probably going to see it. And you don't want
And you can
that.
hear it.
Yeah, what I wanted to do is find just more data on these bridges, and there's a couple good web pages that they go through the Martin bridges of the different years, and you know T.J. Thompson has done tons of research, and he has his CNC bridges that he makes, and those are beautiful. My thing is that as I've been trying, when I find original bridges, I trace the contours on a little note card, and I've been finding that they're different. And I've been on this mission trying to figure out exactly like, hey, is the belly extended this much further this year? And then less this year? Is it OM specific? Is it triple out specific? And
Hmm.
there's not a good web page for all that information. And you end up going through the
Oh,
forums,
wow.
and anytime you see John Arnold talk on the forums, you know, in my book, you know, that's it. That's the answer. Whenever John Arnold weighs in on a forum, it's like that's the right stuff because that dude's good. He's been doing it for forever. He's got it all just in his mind. It's like this year did this, this year did this. So he's great to visit with and talk about that stuff. And they,
Justin, is there an existing resource of all this compiled information in a book form or on a website that, I mean, if you're consolidating all, is there a final destination where all of this information can lead to that people can access? Has it been done?
well, that's what I'm saying is I haven't been able to find it. There are books, but there's nothing that specifically talks about the geometries of all these bridges. And I'm
Okay. Okay.
the reason I'm embarking on this is because I want to have it on my webpage, have a place just so luthiers can visit it and say, hey, this year this was just
Smart.
slightly different. So
Smart.
I've taken tons of pictures of all these bridges that John Arnold let me measure and Wayne Henderson let me measure, and you know
Wow.
it turns out that there's things that are just remarkably consistent with them.
Mm.
There are consistencies in the footprints. The radius on the top of them is all pretty close to 18 inches, and like the tips of the
Hmm.
bevels are all pretty close to the same. But what I learned is that Martin would send those home with employees who would hand
Uh,
finish them at home.
I had a 1969, 68, 69 Martin come into my shop,
Yeah,
and the guy had a belly bump. So I had to, correct that, go through the JT Thompson tool arena, and
yeah,
his tools are phenomenal.
yeah,
But I was, I never, and you learn, you're always learning, and I just learned that Martins back then and up through the 70s didn't have truss rods, and if and that seems like a staple of a really good guitar is something that you're able to adjust the warpage of the neck.
yeah,
But now you're saying that even in the 70s there were inconsistency on bridges. If Martin is this heralded guitar brand, like for a while the end all be all of acoustic guitars, why are there so many inconsistencies? Isn't that an interesting question?
yeah, yeah. I think so.
Why is that? Why is that?
Well,
Just
I mean, I guess,
And no definitive answer. Obviously, it'd be an opinionated answer, but it
yeah.
seems odd, doesn't it?
Well, I believe that that was one of the things that Gibson had over Martin, and they would also make that known, you know, the adjustable truss rod.
Okay.
So I don't know why it took them so long to put them in, and I think it started in 80 85. I think is when they started putting them in. Um,
And I heard recently that they're actually constructing some without the truss rod again, going with the vintage. I'm not sure if that's true or not.
I don't know that. I've heard that. I've had Authentics in here. I can't remember if they
Okay,
had truss rods or not.
interesting.
But technically speaking, they've all had truss rods, just not adjustable, right?
Ah,
So
right. Okay.
yeah, so you would have had like a square
Well,
tube in
even though
your
I couldn't find
69.
an adjustment on this guy's 69 Martin, it did have a truss rod in it. They were just hoping that the rigidity of that rod would prevent you from ever having to
Yeah,
adjust
it makes
was that their logic?
I guess so. It makes it a really good case for climate control, I bet if
Yeah.
um, different woods are more prone to being affected by humidity, especially back then, I don't think that anybody's really caring about humidity. I mean, I
Mm,
think that it's more on people's radars today, but those guitars they must have just been changing by the season and flexing around. So
no doubt.
if you've got one of those with a non-adjustable truss rod, and just if you have a guitar in general, you should be on your humidity game because it saves you money. You don't have to come see people like you and me. You know,
Mhm.
you're not chasing around that setup all year. But
Right. And yet, I when I first started doing this a few years ago, I work out of my home and I hated seeing customers pull up in their car and pull the guitar without a case or a gig bag out of the back seat of the car. And you're like, dude, really? Step one, if you're
yeah,
for one, you're spending money bringing this guitar to me, protect it with something, right? So I went out and bought a
yeah.
bunch of gig bags. And now if I see
Oh,
someone pull up, I'm like, dude, for 30 bucks, you can buy a gig bag from me. Please just do that if anything. But
wow.
now I'm thinking, I don't know how many acoustic guitars I've set out of here, and I went, please, every acoustic guitar, please keep it humidified. On Amazon, they've got cheap. D'Addario makes one. All these companies make them. Please
Yeah,
just keep it humidified. You won't have to pay a couple $100 to get the belly bump out anymore. Just treat it well. And it's
yeah.
kind of like an apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Kind of like you with your gig bags, that I made it my personal mission to make sure that I have the Oasis humidifiers, and
Oh, there you go.
I buy those things and I sell them cheap. I would push them out the door, and it's weird because I feel like I'm hard selling to make money, which I'm not, because I have them priced just so I can get them out the door. Because I like people, I
Yeah,
like guitar players.
that's right.
It's such a
That's right.
simple thing. And with
Yeah.
that, if you're familiar with that design, it's like a tube that you fill full of water, and then it kind of crinkles up as it empties, and you put it in between your strings. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a visual indicator from across the room that you need to put water in there, because so many times I'll get, other through the string humidifiers, and you pop it open, and that sponge is hard because nobody thinks of it, and I don't think of it
Right.
hardly, except when I'm in my shop. But
That's a good point.
yeah,
That's a good point. I got one of those. I bought a $4,000 Taylor 714 a couple of years ago,
nice.
and immediately got the humidification system. I'm not going to let this guitar go to waste. It's too
Yeah.
expensive. And so I had like the app on my phone, and the humidifier in the case constantly. Literally, I used it for like a week, and then I ignored that I even had the app. And you just, like you said, you tend to forget it's
Yeah,
doing its job, or it might not be doing its job. You have to
yeah.
you have to baby it,
Well, you
you
know how to
know,
fix stuff,
for
Mechanics brakes are always on E, you know. Mechanics brakes are always grinding, just like, my guitar's got a crack in it. So I get it, man. Yeah. Are you playing
Yeah,
punk
and
music
and
on that, Taylor?
no. No, that was many, many years ago. That was late 90s, mid 90s, and I had a Dan Electro bass.
Oh,
And
cool.
I was the bass player. They needed a bass player. They said, "Hey Patrick, can you play guitar? Can you play bass?" Yeah, why not? It's two less strings. Sure, it's punk
Yeah.
rock. I mean, how can you go wrong with that?
Yeah.
But man, and if I was in an audience today watching my band and how I treated that bass guitar today, I would leave the auditorium.
Oh, really?
I just despicable. The thing is just a piece of crap, and I treated it like a piece of crap.
Uh,
But anyway, and so I have to ask: when you play and perform live, are you using your own guitars?
I am.
Are you
Yeah.
a walking advertisement for Eisenman Guitars?
Absolutely. Yeah. Um,
Uh-huh.
mainly because so the last two guitars I've had that I've played myself have built for myself. And I built them to fit my hands perfectly, and I built them to have exactly the tone I wanted. And
Nice.
yeah, so I'm going to build myself another one. I don't know if it's an age thing, but I'm thinking of getting into a smaller guitar. You know, I'm plugging in. I found
Okay.
a pickup system that I really like, so I think I'm gonna build myself an OM or just a smaller body.
What what pickup system is that, Justin?
Well, I love the lyric. I love the lyric a lot. So I was a bluegrass microphone snob for many years. I guess I shouldn't say it that way, but it's hard to play anything else other than microphone and bluegrass because it's you can step up on it, you can back off. It's beautiful. It sounds like your guitar. Every little thing you put into your wrist and comes out of the guitar is heard on a microphone. I just struggled. And, when you have sound men who have the final say in what your sound is like, it's just, it's a big risk to be able to outsource how much you can be heard, how much you can hear yourself. And as we talked already, that when you can't hear yourself, it's not, you don't play as well. It's not as enjoyable. And I've had so many just rough shows where just the sound guy, is maybe not hearing what I'm hearing on stage, but either way, it's a fight that I just didn't want to have anymore. And I experimented with different pickups. And the lyric is the one that to me it sounded just like my guitar. It breathed like my guitar. It had the same attack. And, I do a couple things with it. Like I'll mount the thumb wheel, I'll crank it open, I'll leave it, I'll set the presence, and I'll mount it on a back brace, and I'll never touch it again. Because
Okay.
with that microphone especially, you can control your dynamics really nicely. And then, the with my wife is a fantastic bass player, great musician. She knows how to quiet down. The people that we hire on to play with us, whether they're fill-ins or regular members, we're all mature enough to know that when the guitar player's taking a break, you keep the energy up, but you bring it down a little bit so that you're not working that guy too hard. Um, but and then the other thing is I'll put that rubber feedback buster in the sound hole a lot of times because so that
Okay.
way it eliminates feedback or lets you have a higher threshold before feedback, but also it kind of takes some of that woofiness that just kind of hovels around inside the box and it focuses the tone. The
Nice.
lyric it got me off the microphone, but I will say that the best seller in my shop is the K&K Pure Mini, and that's
Yeah.
because there's no battery, there's no controls. It's just you plug that in and you have a good clear tone 100% of the time. You never have to think about it again.
And every KK you install, you get a free golf tee.
Yeah, right in the garbage. I should do something with them. What do you do with yours?
I save them. If there's one thing I've learned in this business is you never throw anything away. A piece
Yeah,
of bubble wrap from Sumac, a piece of cardboard from a Sweetwater box. I don't know. I've got this
yeah.
pile of materials. Hell, the other day I grabbed an old wallet that I retired many, many years ago, and I cut off a chunk of leather to
Uh-huh.
shore up a tuner on a banjo. It was a friction tuner and it wasn't gripping. And I saw
Yeah,
some guy online wrapped a little piece of leather on there. So I'm sitting here hammering this wallet, trying to flatten, tenderize that piece of leather. And I'm like, I've got an entire toolbox over here full of materials.
yeah.
And one of the little drawers is KK golf tees.
Mhm. Yeah, it's an interesting career path for somebody who's a pack rat. It's funny,
That's
like
right.
myself and my kids will just love the most random little things. We've recently discovered a flea market down by us, and we go out there and buy a
Nice.
toolbox full of tools and all just the random stuff you think you're going to use, like the Goodwill wholesale bins. This little patch of this,
Yeah.
this little hunk of this.
And it's funny because I used to surf Facebook Marketplace for guitars and amps.
Yeah.
And I find myself surfing for those guys that are unloading all their tools on a big table. And they're like,
Oh yeah.
$100. I'm like, for $100, just that one little chisel right there might be where, suddenly I'm caught with a box full of crap because I
Yeah.
wanted that chisel.
Man, you should try the flea market down in Hendersonville by us. You're not too far.
Okay. All
If
right.
that's if
Okay.
that's your speed, you're gonna love that place. But don't buy the tools I'm gonna
Oh,
buy.
definitely. Dustin, tell me about Wayne. I didn't know this about Wayne until I got your email explaining your trip.
Yeah.
And I looked him up and just a phenomenal history with that guy.
Yeah.
Did you, y- could you give a little bit background of what you told me?
Sure.
Eric Clapton's guitar. He's got a bluegrass festival named after him.
Yep.
Just a phenomenal character. So when you went to pick his brain about Martin Bridges, I'm sure the conversation shot off in many different directions.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so I've met Wayne about a decade ago and came to his shop, and he's
Wow.
yeah. And then this was the second time, and I don't think he remembered me. He probably has hundreds of people stopping by all the time, all sorts of. I think he built Brad Paisley a guitar. He has Vince
Oh,
Gill
wow.
play at his festivals. You know, people know who this dude
Oh,
is.
wow.
He's awesome. Um, I don't know too much about him. I'm definitely not the authority on him. He has been on different podcasts and such too, so I believe he's willing to talk. But he's just very knowledgeable, very good craftsman. As I understand, I saw his first guitar that he built, I think when he was like 18, 16, 18. That guitar was
Wow.
awesome, and he showed me. I got to play maybe a dozen of the guitars that he's built, half dozen,
Oh, wow.
and it's cool to be able to see that progression and the stories that he has with all these guitars. And he's just very knowledgeable and very well thought of. Just a very down to earth, talented dude. And he's got a daughter too who lives in Asheville, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, her name is EJ Henderson, and she builds great
Okay.
guitars too. Um,
Oh, really?
yeah, yeah, she builds with local wood. She's building with some. I played one of her oak guitars up there that Wayne has hanging on the wall. She built that guitar for Doc
Man.
Watson. So
Oh, wow.
so yeah, he's a legend. You know, he's a legend, and people love his
That's
guitars, and they're cool.
how did I don't know the story, and maybe you don't either, so pardon me for asking, but
Sure.
how did he come across Eric Clapton and making Eric's guitar?
I don't know that.
How
So
would
I
how
bought the
would
book.
something like that even happen, you know?
Yeah, I think I so there's the book. Anybody can read it. I thought that somebody
Okay.
connected them, and then somebody kept on nudging Wayne to build the guitar for Eric Clapton. I think is how it went. So
Okay.
yeah, I
Fascinating.
I feel like I'm certainly gonna misstate something on Wayne. So
Sure,
you
sure.
know I don't know.
How about well, then how about what you took from Wayne when you,
Yeah,
went into his shop? I'm sure he seems like an open book,
yeah.
and, what did you walk away with? Like, I mean, you went researching bridges on Martins, but
Yeah.
are there other, like, tips and tricks or, "Man, I've gotta get that tool," or, "I've gotta learn how to do that with toothpicks," or whatever?
Yeah. So when I was there, he was building with somebody else. There was another person who was building their first guitar with him. So as I understand, he like anybody else in the community likes to kind of give knowledge. But it's inspiring just to see, just another person, creating beautiful things. And he's self-taught as I understand it. And from what he was telling me, he just kind of figured things out. I asked him how he built this mandolin that he had, and he said that he probably built it just from looking at a picture. So
Wow.
yeah, somebody who I just believe he's somebody who just figures out how to make things, and he instead of just does a bang up job. The guitars are really special. They're light, responsive, loud, great guitars, and he's very knowledgeable, and he seems to have a real love for vintage guitars too. So
How's his shop when you walk in there? Is it like holy mecca, or is it organized? Is it disheveled, or
yes, yes,
what's
and
it
yes.
like?
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
it's a holy mecca. I'm sure he knows where everything is in there.
Sure.
There is there is not necessarily a spot that was ready made for me to put things down and start measuring, but it was
Okay.
cool. I'm sure he knows where absolutely everything is, and his shop
Wow.
was similar to John Arnold's in a way that they're both people who've had a long career where they've been able to collect cool things that they're going to need, just like you and I were talking about, you know, widgets and
Hmm.
gears and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
It's
it was
cool that that Wayne has his lineage in his daughter.
yeah.
The generational thing. Does John Arnold have that as well? Is there a generational thing going on?
I don't think he has kids. He was talking about some family that
Okay.
he has, but I don't suspect he has kids. No. Um, no, I think his
How about Justin Eisenman? Does Justin Eisenman you have kids, right?
I do, yeah.
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 How many?
I've got two. I've got a son who's 6 and a daughter who's 8. And
Okay.
yeah, my daughter they're both natural musicians. My daughter
Oh,
Pearl,
cool.
yeah, my daughter Pearl has she's a great songwriter, and she's got focus,
Wow.
and she's got natural, beautiful melodies and words in her head, and she's really expressive and good at anything she touches musically. And my
Nice.
son is also very confident, which is really cool. We had a concert series at a farm that we have. It's just up the road, and he's been up there. We've done recitals up there, and he'll get up. He will act like he's not going to get up there and play, and then he'll just jump up there and sing and play. And just a very confident dude who's very
Wow.
expressive as well. And um, they're both. I've been. It's been important to me that they both kind of learn business. So I've got a little workbench behind me. I know this is kind of an audio thing, but I've got a workbench behind me that I pull out, and my daughter has made bracelets for years, and I sell them, and I give her the money for them, and customers will buy them. And they're just
Wow.
bracelets. She'll ask me what should we put on it, and I'll say, how about this word? And she'll make them out of guitar strings and shrink wrap, and then she'll
Oh,
put beads
wow.
on there. And my
Clever.
son, yeah. And then we'll go to the Goodwill bins, and we'll get some remote control cars, and my son has always taken pieces apart and like sold. Here's a little bag full of motors for $2, and here's a bag full of springs. And customers will buy that stuff too. And recently my daughter and I were having a conversation about wholesale versus retail, and I was telling her, it's like, you know what?
Whoa.
You just built 12 bracelets. They're sitting here. You're selling them for $1 a piece, but cut me a deal. I'll buy them all from you. You don't have to think about it anymore. It's just, just
That's awesome.
taking all the fun out of everything, making everything kind of teach you about business because, there's the thing about being a craftsperson and there's the thing about being a businessman. And a lot of times
Right.
craftspeople kind of
Right.
forget about the business part of things. And
That's a really good point. And man,
yeah,
I have to say that Luthing for Dollars on the Luth group, I know you're on the Luth group, you
yeah,
have to be.
yeah,
Luthing for Dollars has been with Doug Proper and those guys an invaluable resource on how to balance business with the service industry that you're providing
yeah,
and being a luthier in general. It's a very important aspect. I had a 18-year-old kid that lives in the neighborhood here, and he brought in a guitar, and he walked into my shop, and he's like, oh, this is cool. I want to do that. Can you teach? I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not a really good instructor. I wouldn't be
yeah,
able to teach you how to do it, but here's where I went to learn how to do it. And you can too. But I said, please, it is cool, but there's a financial and there's a whole business side of it that you need to keep in mind. It's not
yeah,
just, hey, here's a bunch of cool guitars coming through the shop. There's a balance, and you
yeah,
have to learn that. And if you don't, you'll die in the vine,
yeah,
for
for
sure.
sure. Yeah.
So Eisenman Guitars, do you have a backlog of orders?
I actually just took on my first banjo order. So that was going to be cool.
Whoa,
Yeah, once
whoa, okay.
yeah, we're kind of working out the finer points on it at this point, so I haven't actually cut any wood. I've got this project that's behind me that I'm going to be buffing out today, and that's
Okay.
that's from that oven call guitar that I was talking about before that I got the wood for up at Cormark.
Ah,
There's
okay.
a man over here in around Asheville, surrounding areas that I'm building that one for, and he seems to have a really refined taste, and he's got an aesthetic that he's going for. So he's led a lot of this build, which has been cool. And we've agreed on a lot of the things regarding it. So I'm really excited to see it come out. And if we didn't agree on a lot of things, we probably won't be working together on this guitar. Um, but I'm going to be buffing that thing out and then finishing it up
Cool.
hopefully this week. And he wanted one that's an OM style, but a deeper body because he's going for these different tonal things. And it's got a black
Oh,
top,
wow.
and it's a 5-piece neck. So yeah, I've got that one going on, and I've got two smaller guitars that I'm going to be finishing up on this year too, and a couple other discussions happening.
And what do you consider the toughest part about building a guitar? I'm not a builder at all. I've seen millions of videos and watched and listened to a bunch of podcasts and all that and seen
Yeah,
websites. But and just watching the building process, to me, it's there's a beauty to it.
yeah,
The what do you what the, you know the builder and the materials, and it's just there's something zen about it that's really cool that I envy.
yeah.
I envy. I have a Zen approach to setting up guitars. It's a
Hmm.
methodical step by step. Now I do this, now I do that. The next
Yeah.
step is, but there's nothing quite like constructing something from nothing. What do you in that Zen arena? What do you consider the most difficult or time-consuming task?
Oh, dude, without a doubt, finish work.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
it's oh
That
man.
wouldn't have been the answer that I would have thought of.
Oh yeah, absolutely finish work. So
Okay.
I'm at a place where I feel really good about my finished work.
Okay.
You know, I've sought advice with certain people. You know, there's a buddy of mine up in Neenah, Wisconsin. His name is Andy Madsen, and he kind of helped me get to where my finishes are today. He gave me some really helpful advice, and you know, I feel very good that I'm going to get a thin and really flat, really shiny, beautiful finish.
Mm,
But that process just sucks, you know.
mm,
Everything from, you know, I spray off site. I don't do that. I don't do that in my shop. But from the build up to the chemicals to like the personal protection, you know, the PPE,
mhm,
um, to just everything about it is just kind of a bummer. And
mm.
this guitar that I was just talking about, the open call one, was supposed to be done a month ago, but I mixed the chemical in with my last shot of lacquer, and it went through the color coat all the way down to the pores, and it made little bubbles all over
Uh,
everything. So it's
crap.
like, yeah. So that is
So you
absolutely
just
the yeah,
you had to strip it all down and start all over again, or
yeah. Thankfully, I didn't spray it on
ah,
top because the rosette is really intricate, and I didn't put a band around the intricate stuff for the rosette, so that meant that I had to tape off all the little pieces and then touch things up and scrape things back with a razor blade.
oof. Okay.
If I would have destroyed that top, I would probably be working for UPS right now. So, but yeah, the
I,
finished
I
stuff.
I I hear your pain. I hear your
Yeah,
pain. I thought it would be like side bending or something. You
no,
know, those, no, you got that down
no.
to a science. Sure. Yeah.
You know, every piece of wood is a little different. This open call was, you know, I broke a side and I scorched a side. It turns out because it was kiln dried. And I
Mm,
tried super soft, and you know, you can add moisture, you can do it dry, um, a fixture, a heat pipe. There's different ways to do it, but it's just problem solving. You know, it's definitely
mhm,
not something I
mhm,
don't look forward to. I enjoy that, even if it goes sideways and I
mm.
scrap a piece of wood. You know, I'll use it for something
Okay.
else. But you know,
What's your favorite part? It seems like the art is in the rosette and the inlay. What's the part that you enjoy the most? Besides the final product and of course handing it to the customer and
yeah,
seeing the look on their face and hearing them perform and hearing
yeah,
because you've constructed the guitar, but it takes on a whole new life once that player picks it up and adds their personality to it.
yeah.
I'm sure.
Well, I like the bracing because it's really putsy. You spend a lot of time making all that stuff look great that probably nobody's ever going to see unless they're in there with a mirror, and that's where the voice comes from. So the
Yeah.
bracing, I love making it just as clean as I possibly can with that in mind that no one's going to see it, and for some reason that's just really satisfying. You know, hiding the work,
Cool.
and you know, like one of the more recent guitars I've got inlays on the inside, you know, just to put the extra work in and not have anybody see it. And I don't know why that is. I haven't had that many concussions in my life. I'm not sure where that comes from. But yeah, I just like doing that. I love the hidden beauty of work. Um, but the part that I really like after assembly is I love doing a custom setup on it. I love getting all that stuff perfect. I love making the nut perfect and round it off in this spot so it doesn't hit your thumb in a weird way.
Nice.
The fretwork like jewelry, just everything. As you know, you probably have a mathematical approach to your setups as well, but you know,
Yeah.
I know what the customer wants. I've been playing a long time, so I know what feels right. So I take those two things and just giving that guitar the final push of
Yeah.
making it like an unencumbered interface, you know, to somebody's musical expression.
Absolutely.
That's the part that I and the fact that I built the whole thing and I just got through that finishing process. You know, it's like it's definitely the cherry on top. Yeah, my
Yeah.
favorite thing is putting it over the finish line with awesome fretwork and a good setup, 'cause then you can really feel the thing pop, and a lot of times I'll even
Nice.
wait, I sometimes feel tempted just to like get a nut on it, get a saddle, play it rough just to hear how it sounds. But um,
Sure.
if a guitar is feeling rough, it's not going to sound as good, because like
Right.
your mind, your body has to be able to express on it. And, if you're fighting this or that, A, your mind is taking you away from it. And then B, I'm sure you've run across people who had really high action on their guitars and it's buzzing. It's because, they have to push down so hard they can't do it and it's rattling here or
Yeah.
there. There's just just the finishing touches, I guess, is my favorite part of the whole
Yeah.
construction process, making it a tool.
Yeah. I heard an interview on a podcast recently. I think it was Luthier on Luthier interviewed Doug Proper, and he had this really great quote. He said, "We're in the business of not being there. The customer needs to not see that we were there and
Mm.
not, you know what I mean, being
Yeah.
invisible."
Yeah.
And that really kind of opened up my eyes. I'm like, you know what? That's right. If you're going to do a repair on a crack or something to that effect, or a headstock, or even constructing a guitar, it needs the bond between the musician and the instrument. We have to be out where our job is to be out of the picture, if you
Yeah.
will.
Like a bass
You
player, kind
know?
of, right? The subtleties of being a bass player, where
Yeah.
you're not noticed, but if you're gone, then everybody
Well, be
notices.
careful when you start dissing bass players. Your wife is in that school, that
Well,
camp, so you got.
yeah. Well, what I mean is the importance without being in the forefront is what I meant by that.
Absolutely. Yes, that I get that. I get that part. So many times in the rock world, the bass player gets the shit end of the stick, and
Sure.
okay, now I see where you're coming from in that
Yeah.
comment.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. The
And
most important
I
thing.
envy your wife. I'm a giant jazz fan, and
Yeah.
a few years ago, my wife and I were in Manhattan, and we went to the Blue Note and caught Ron Carter live, and talk about impeccable bass playing on
Yeah.
that upright. Dude, I've always wanted to. My wife plays cello, and I
Oh,
always
cool.
find myself picking it up and just, I just the fretlessness of it is just organic,
Yeah.
and I love it. It's so lends itself to jazz music and improvisation. So I envy your wife that she performs on the stand-up bass. I think it's an awesome instrument.
Yeah, it's amazing. She'll play syncopated bass lines that you don't necessarily notice unless you're listening for them. So it's like the foundation, and
Yeah.
it's not, super out there, but she's my favorite bass player because where she falls on the beat too, she falls directly where the beat starts, as
Nice.
opposed to different kinds of music where somebody might just play slightly behind the beat, which is perfectly cool too. Um, but
Absolutely.
but that's just what I really loved about her when I first met her is just where she plays on the beat, the fact that she plays syncopated lines that you don't necessarily notice unless you're listening, but you feel it,
Nice.
and she does it all while singing, so that's pretty cool. But
Very cool.
it's got to be really special to for you to be walking through your house and hearing cello music playing. It's got to be nice, huh?
Oh, she doesn't play enough, but yeah,
Yeah,
it is very
sure,
special when she does, for
that's
sure.
cool.
Do you guys record? Do you have any recordings?
Yeah, yeah, we've recorded. I think we had two albums, two, three albums. But yeah, we're on Spotify. We're all over
Okay.
YouTube. So she's
What's the name of the band? How do I find you on Spotify?
so it would be either Aubrey Eisenman and the Clydes or the Clydes. And there's another band called the Clydes from New Jersey, and I believe it's four dudes who play rock and roll music, and that stuff's awesome too, but it's not us. So
Okay.
we have been called the Clydes, and then we got signed with a record label, and then they changed the name to Aubrey Eisenman and the Clydes. So there's kind of both those things. But then previous
Nice.
to that, we were called Clydes on Fire. So there, you might see some of that
Slides
on
on.
YouTube. Um, and
Okay.
then the band I played with previously was called Mountain Spice. There's some good content on Mountain Spice. It's more um, hard driving bluegrass, I guess, instead of songwriter focused.
What's the reference? What's the Clyde's reference? What is that a reference to?
Well, two things. So my wife is very horsey, and she had a Clydesdale when she was younger. I think there's
Oh,
something to
sure.
do with that. But also we were searching for a new band name when we got together, and there's just a thing up in Wisconsin, in rural Wisconsin, where I'm from. People would call each other Clyde, just like kind of like, hey, bro, like, hey, what's up there, Clyde? Hey,
Uh-huh.
Clyde. So
Uh-huh.
I guess we're just kind of goofing around in the van, and I brought that up, so we call it the Clydes.
Huh.
So,
Oh, that's
and everybody
clever.
thinks when we play as a duo that our last name is Clyde, or we always get, hey, which one of you is Clyde? And then sometimes we're branded as Aubrey Eisenman and the Clydes, and I'm the only Clyde. So,
That's right.
yeah,
Oh, interesting.
yeah,
So, Justin, I ask everybody at the end of my episodes
yeah.
the same question. Um, and I'm going to ask you, and it's if you had to pick uh, three songs to put on you're on a desert island and you have a mixtape and you get to choose three songs, guitar related or not. I've had people choose drum songs. What three tunes would you put on your mixtape?
Oh, okay. This is interesting because I thought that we were going for guitar related songs. So, um, there is so three guitar related songs I was thinking of is there's Harvest Moon by Neil Young. Right? It's not
Oh,
necessarily a shredder song, but it's a guitar part that's very prominent and it's beautiful.
mwah.
And
I'm telling you, and I have to interrupt for a second,
yeah,
Justin. Neil Young is coming to Charlotte this summer.
oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
if you get a
Maybe
chance,
I'll see it.
yeah, if you that's a road trip.
Yeah. And then I guess another one would be Samba Petite by Santana. So
Oh,
both
nice.
those
Wow.
songs, both those songs can kind of take me out of the place where I'm at. And I kind of figured
Yeah.
that if I'm on a desert island, I'm probably stuck there and things probably suck.
Yeah.
And I probably just
Yeah.
want to zone out for a little bit. So those two songs do that for me. And then also
Man,
Aerial Boundaries by Michael Hedges. Um, and
wow. I'm
all three of
impressed.
those
I'm
songs.
impressed with your answers, Justin. I
Oh
thought you were
yeah.
going to be a bluegrass purist about your answers. I'm
Oh,
I'm a giant Santana fan, and the fact that you
nice.
even clicked on that's phenomenal. I love
Yeah,
that.
I could see being at the not having water for days and laying on a beach and hoping for the best and then listening to any of those songs. And then just
Absolutely.
kind of taking me out of the space, I think. Um, but since
Absolutely.
not guitar specific, since we're talking about that, there's
Sure.
Ray Lynch is another guy that hits me in the same way that those three songs do. And his music is there's an album called Deep Breakfast, but that music is just it's electronic and it's unbelievably touching. And
I know Deep Breakfast.
you
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
okay,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Didn't
wild.
he didn't he do did he do a movie soundtrack at one point?
I bet I don't
He
know
did a
anything about him.
tune.
I don't
Yeah,
know anything
I'm gonna
about
have
him.
to look that up. What's your favorite tool in your arsenal? You've got a giant shop behind you, and
Yeah.
it's I recently posted on Instagram a shot of my. I was really proud of myself. I went and organized everything, and you have to do that every so often, or else you're just going to go nuts trying to find stuff.
Oh yeah.
And so I organized my shop, and I posted a photo on Instagram, and I said, something to the effect of the benefits of organizing your shop is it makes your process a lot easier and smoother and your transitions between tasks, but the bitch of it is you spend the next week going, where the hell did I put my hex wrenches?
Yeah. Well, that's why you have to keep everything crammed in one too small drawer and then swear every time
there
you
is
try
a
to
there is
open
a
it.
logic to that. That's
Well, yeah.
right.
You
You know
wasted
where
your
it is.
time.
It's somewhere in this fucking drawer of
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah,
That's a good
absolutely.
theory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
That's not the way you do your shop, though. No, I can tell behind you that it's very organized.
well, my toolbox has two of the drawers that just kind of everything goes in. And
Okay,
I recently came upon a three-in-one lathe and I bought a new rolling toolbox and
cool.
that's been a couple of weeks now and I still have half those drawers are empty and then my other toolbox there's stuff just crammed in there. So, it's like one
You've
of
got some
those
spring cleaning to do.
yeah, it's one of those non-billable hours projects that I'm to get to.
That's
Um,
right. Yeah.
but my favorite tool that I reach for more than anything these days, and it's a surprise to me, but it's a little carving knife. It's just like a little blade that's like an inch and a half long, and I bought it and I figured I'm gonna use this once in a while. But I drilled a hole in the top of my bench so I can stick it blade side down, and I reach for that dang thing just at, all the time. just all the
Yeah. For
time. So
whatever task. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and then I guess, my feeler gauges and my STU
Yeah.
that little rectangle ruler thing, those are all the things I use the most. But that little knife, and I haven't had to sharpen it yet, and it hasn't cut me yet, and I've had it for 6 months. And before that, I was just using
Cool.
X-Acto blades. So it's my little
Yeah.
buddy. Yeah,
Yeah.
some
Very
nice.
cool. Well, Justin, what's next on your roster? I should ask body styles of guitars. I mean, it depends obviously on what the client requests, but do you have any ideas or concepts or projects that you'd like to dive into coming up?
Yeah, yep, absolutely. So I'm gonna build a series of small bodied guitars. Um, I'm I'm ironing out the final designs of the rosette in my mind, and as soon as I get that figured out, then it'll be all systems go. But I'm kind of waiting for the inspiration on the final little pieces. So I like something that is not too thin, not too wide. When I think the
Okay.
rosette is too dark, that's why I didn't put the band around the outside of this last one. I just think that it
Okay.
can make things look clunky, and there's just a fine line there on um, on rosette designs from my personal perspective. I don't want
Mhm.
I don't want perfect rings because it's been done so often and it works wonderfully. Um, so once I get those things finalized, then I'll be knocking out these next few guitars. One is, I take tracings of guitars that come into the shop that I use those kind of as inspiration sometimes.
Wow.
I've got this mid 1800s parlor guitar that found its way into my
Wow.
shop a few years ago, and I put that together and I restored it. And
Wow.
that just feels so good just being around the house. And, it's a good size for my wife who likes to just sit on the couch, cross her legs and play and write songs on it. And
And your kids would pick it up eventually too.
yep, for sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I find, maybe you find this too, that more people that come into the shop are like looking for smaller body guitars. It seems like that's the way
Oh.
the world is edging. There's still a lot of people that need and want a traditional dreadnought because those
Mhm.
kick assholes are awesome. But it seems like more people are asking about them now, and I'm more personally drawn to them recently.
Mhm.
So yeah, I
If
guess
you're to
that's
pick if you're to pick a good wood to resonate, when you get that smaller body, you need what would you choose for a nice resonating wood for a small body guitar?
well, I'll tell you. So I've got a piece of Sitka from the Laprenzi Guitar Factory
Oh wow.
that I'm making one with, and that's paired with some Indian rosewood.
Nice.
Um, and I think that one's gonna be a nice fingerstyle guitar. And then I've got one that's Cocobolo and Western Red Cedar. So I bought that red cedar from a classical builder in Virginia, I
Oh,
believe.
wow.
And then I've got a piece of Adirondack spruce that was cut in Maggie Valley that I'm gonna pair with some Brazilian.
Wow.
So
Oh, nice.
yeah, I guess I'm thinking that the Cocobolo and the Western Red Cedar, I think that's going to be delicious sounding fingerstyle guitar. In my mind, that's what
Wow.
that's going to be perfect for. And the little Sitka one is also going to kind of be the same thing. And I think that Adirondack and Brazilian is probably going to be good for cracking out some louder stuff. Adirondack has more headroom. Um,
Okay.
a good cut of Brazilian is gonna lend itself to sparkly highs and good fundamental. So those are the woods I'm using next. And then just mahogany neck, but I'm also harvesting some black walnut that we felled at our farm a couple of years
Oh,
ago,
wow.
and
Wow.
that stuff's toxic. I've played some clunkers that are made
Really?
out of it. Yeah, I guess that the black walnut dust in particular is carcinogenic. Um,
Wow.
but it's beautiful, and I love the idea of building local. And I, so I'm going to harvest some of that stuff, um,
Cool.
and I'm going to pair that with a Norway spruce that is cut on my brother's
Wow.
farm up in Wisconsin. So
Oh, wow. Fantastic. Oh, that'd be really cool. So a
yeah, yeah, for
family
sure,
farm come. Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, and cold up there, so it's got nice dark growth rings on it, and it's going to sound
Oh,
really cool.
interesting.
Yeah, so those are the next
Interesting.
four.
Oh man, very cool. So
Yeah.
where can it's eisenmanguitars.com is your
Yes,
website, is that correct?
is EGAVL, Eisenman Guitars, Asheville. So EGAVL. It's difficult to spell my name, especially on the phone, or somebody's gonna remember it. So EGAVL. And then also just feel like guitar repair around Asheville. I'm one of two people with a German sounding last name, and I'm the only one with a long
Okay.
German sounding last name. So,
And how do people find you on Instagram?
um, you can look up Eisenman Guitars. I guess you have to spell it in that case, but it's like Eisenhower, but Eisenman, Eisenman Guitars.
Okay. Okay.
Um, yeah, you can find me on there. I try to put interesting stuff on there that I would like to see. I like to share jigs and tricks and
Absolutely. I was
yeah.
impressed with one of your repairs. One of your repairs that you showed on Instagram was a completely shattered headstock, and you
Oh
brought it
yeah.
back to life, and it was like, wow, that must have been phenomenally difficult.
You're probably talking about that parlor, that slot-headed parlor.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man,
that's
that
right.
thing that thing got shipped to me from Texas, and
Wow.
that guitar supposedly in this guy's family history, that guitar fell off a horse, and then that's how that headstock broke. And then it
Uh,
had been repaired. Um, it it did not get repaired super well and cleanly, but that was probably the move at that point. Somebody just wanted to make music with it, and they just did it. So when it came to me, I had to disassemble the different repairs, take the screws out. There was things
oh
glued
man.
not quite properly, so it was fun to take that repair apart, have it come apart cleanly, put it back together,
Wow.
put a back strap on it, and I did some painting and some touch-up work on it to make it, but I was thrilled with that. So was the customer. He's very, very thrilled. He
Well,
actually just still
very
contacts me once in a
impressive.
while. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So Justin, your ratio of electrics to acoustics in your repair side, what would you say the ratio is, the percentage?
I'd say 50-50, I think.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I get a lot of electric stuff in here. I just
Okay.
finished up a jumbo stainless refret on a carbon last week and installed a MIDI controller in it.
Wow.
And
Oh,
then
yikes.
yeah, and then pair that with the 1943 0018 neck block repair. So
Very cool.
it's what I
Oh,
love
and
about this.
I saw a photo of that repair on your Instagram too, the block.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of like what Doug Proper was talking about. You pretend you weren't there, but somebody else was there, and then making it look like nobody
Yeah.
had ever been there was the move there. Um, yeah,
So
that was
you
fun.
find yourself re-repairing repairs,
Yeah,
basically. Something. Yeah.
yeah, low
Ridiculous.
stakes, man. Those are fun because all you can do is make it better.
Absolutely. That's right. That's right. So Justin, thanks, man. I appreciate your time. I look forward to seeing these smaller scale guitars.
Yeah, thank
I
you,
look
Patrick.
forward to seeing your banjo too. That'd be interesting for
Yeah,
sure.
thanks. Yeah, I think that one's going to be
Whole
Cocobolo Black
different world.
Rim. So
Wow. Oh, so
yeah,
it's going to have the resonator with the back, or it's not going to be backless. It's going to have the resonator.
yeah.
I don't know anything about banjos. I'm trying to.
No, it's a perfectly logical question, and yeah, I haven't exactly figured out how I'm going to do that part of it yet. But yeah,
I got you. Well, how about and I have repaired a couple banjos, and that's why I can't stand them. But
I feel you. Yeah,
the
it's reasonable. It's a reasonable thought. They're played hard. There's a lot of metal, and they're light
yeah,
gauge strings.
dude, and one little adjustment here, and everything can just collapse, just like a deflating a balloon. I mean,
Yeah,
but I have to the two different banjos I've done. One had a wood support beam going through the body, and one had a steel.
yeah.
And I think the wood was just ancient technology, or is it? Is that something that might be requested by some? Like, look, the wood helps it resonate differently. Is that a preference thing, or is it pretty much a thing of the past?
No, it is not a thing of the past. Um,
Okay.
yeah, those banjos I was building just a few years ago. It's called a double stick banjo. And that's just it's a traditional way that is still perfectly fine, and new builders do it all the time, and it's very
Interesting.
standard and very commonplace for an old time banjo or an open back.
Cool.
Um, and then
Okay.
the coordinator rods, I guess you had one with one coordinator rod in your shop.
Yes.
That's nudging towards the double co rods, which is gives you more adjustability, and that's more typical
Okay.
for like for a resonator style bluegrass banjo or just a resonator style banjo. So the single co rod is,
Huh.
in my opinion, kind of has the least adjustability, and um, that's why I'm sure this makes somebody mad out there, but that's why you kind of see them on more more budget instruments.
And so I was really disappointed because I spent a lot of time on this banjo and found some really good resources online for banjo parts
Yeah,
and took it back to the guy and he's like, fantastic. And he went and put it on the fireplace mantle. He said, this is a family heirloom. I was hoping you'd play it. And he's like, no, I don't play. No one in my family plays, but we just want to look at it. And I'm like, really? All that? And I sat there like, near. You're trying to get everything perfect, but
yeah.
whatever, you know.
Now somebody's gonna visit them one day and be hanging out like, oh, you got a banjo here, and bring joy to everybody in the house.
And they're going to pick it up and play it and go, oh, the action on this is phenomenal. Yeah, is it really? I don't know. It's some guy named
Yeah,
Patrick Sanders up in Concord, North Carolina.
yeah.
Well, Justin, thank you, man. Again, I appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time, and let's stay in touch after this. I think I've got a new friend out in the mountains of Asheville. Next
Yeah,
time I'm there, I'll look you up and pay you a visit for sure.
please do. I'd love to have you out.
Awesome. Justin, thank you, man, and very best of luck on anything in the future.